All right, let's get into the papers now and see what the headlines are across Nigeria. And we'll begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper says, Tinubu inauguration, security agencies raid hotspots, and Biden names U.S. delegation. Okay, Housing and Urban Development Secretary to lead U.S. team to May 29 handover, and the security agencies to restrict movements to Eagle Square beginning from Friday. A UK ex-Prime Minister, Tony Blair, meets President-elect, says running government is a tough job. Okay, that's what the Punch newspaper has. And from there, let's go to This Nigeria. This Nigeria says U.S. President Biden's team for Tinubu's inauguration as former UK Prime Minister Blair visits President-elect. Okay, that's what you see there on This Nigeria. First News is next. Tinubu's government will face multiple industrial crises, NLC predicts. Tinubu's government will face multiple industrial crises, NLC predicts. It says that Buhari's failure to honor various agreements with different unions will pose serious problems for his successor. And he expresses pity for President-elect. Okay, that's from the president of NLC to the president-elect of Nigeria. All right, from that's First News. Let's go now to the Daily Sun. Daily Sun says 6 days to handover. Buhari reveals secrets of certain decisions. Explains why he appointed female finance minister, shut country's borders for long, unfold how Niger Republic, other will defend him if Nigeria disturbs his peace. Okay, that's what Daily Sun has there. Let's move to the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint says, ahead May 29 inauguration, pressure mounts on APC over Akpabio Abass endorsement. Legislative aides back National Working Committee, and groups call for ex-Akwa governor's probe. 150 reps members elect, mobilize and storm APC secretariat for Abass. And we're still consulting, says party chair Adamu. All right, that's what the Blueprint has. Kemi.
All right. More papers here with me. Daily Trust is the first paper we look at. It's saying ministers hand over ahead of cabinet dissolution. Minister of Communications, Panteme's belongings moved out of the ministry. FCT Minister is said to have ordered more demolitions just as Aviation Ministry appoints 20 new directors. Ministers handing over ahead of cabinet dissolution. That's on Daily Trust. Nigerian News Direct is next. President Buhari replying critics. That's the big story there. And he says why we are borrowing heavily, a deliberate choice to fight poverty, he says, and that assets, investment profiles were paid for by debt. He's also commissioned 3 bridges and other projects, saying these efforts are a reflection of change his government promised. The Nation is next. We borrowed for projects to create wealth. That's according to outgoing President Buhari. He also speaks on the burden of debt that his government has been facing. And Second Niger Bridge, roads, offices are also being inaugurated by President Buhari. Business Day is next. Buhari exits with refineries in limbo. That's the lead story on Business Day. Buhari exits with refineries in limbo. Let's check out the leadership. It says 5 days to go. That's for the Buhari administration. Curious public peeps into politics, fashion, style of first ladies, as Aisha Buhari and Oluremi Tinubu's styles catch attention for different reasons. This is on the leadership. Finally is Nature News. Nigeria needs 3.4 trillion naira to tackle flood disasters. That's from the Presidential Council. Mike.
All right. Let's see some of the stories here that some persons will see as issues of interest. Now, recall about a week ago when the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, put a call over to the president-elect. And a lot of Nigerians reacted to it. Some said, well, it's a good development because America, United States, has to reaffirm its commitment and support to Nigeria's democracy, and also to give assurance that we are still partners going forward, and all of that. Others talked about the fact that, well, there are contentions regarding the president-elect, there are issues in court, and the U.S. had come to say that, of course, the election, they had their reservations around the election, that it wasn't a good time for a senior government official of the U.S. to call the president-elect. However, all that aside, right now on the papers, especially on the Punch newspaper and this Nigeria, we see that U.S. President Joe Biden has named a strong, powerful delegation that will be coming to be part of the inauguration of Nigeria, which inauguration of the presidential inauguration on the 29th of May, which goes a long way to reflect the friendship that still exists between the U.S. and Nigeria. And
which they are still willing to pursue. I think it's symbolic, at least going by the narratives that have greeted the announcement by President Biden. I think the news broke at around the early hours of Monday that the U.S. government was going to be sending a high-power delegation, as you put it. Of course, President Biden not coming, but you may as well say that, you know, the delegation has his blessings, and of course they are coming to convey the message of the U.S. government, saying that, yes, they're acknowledging the long-standing relationship between both countries, and that, yes, they are willing to, they are willing to continue the mutual interests and, explore more areas that would be of, benefit to both countries. And, of course, also symbolic was yesterday when the president-elect also received the former UK Prime Minister, Tony Blair, who came visiting, and he said he felt it was only natural that he comes in to lend his own support to the government, even though he acknowledged that the job that the Tinubu presidency is taking on, the job that the individual himself is taking on, that's Asiwaju Tinubu, is enormous, as is such positions, across the world. And Nigeria, we as Nigerians, we are also mindful. We spoke earlier about the peculiar challenges that, the country faces and what the president needs to do. He spoke what the new president needs to do. He's spoken about what he will do. And now Nigerians are expecting that he will indeed hit the ground running. So it just goes to show you that, yes, the world is watching. And everyone is watching. Everybody is looking up to see what he's bringing, and of course his credentials have been talked about. People are still talking about his credentials, how that he did so much changing the governance in Lagos, I should say, and what is now bringing on a larger scale now that he's going to be president. So it's a good thing. We understand that about 60 heads of state or thereabout are going to be 65 interested, are going to be
world leaders
there
anyway,
in Abuja.
Yeah, world leaders. Some president and others, of course, heads of different kind
delegations.
It's really interesting.
It is. It is interesting, and one can really expect and look forward to the inauguration next Monday. Of course, there is still the Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal. Of course, the papers also alluded to security officers, security agencies who are working tirelessly to ensure that nothing goes wrong. They're also mindful of the threats. This times, the dust is yet to settle, let's face it, but it shouldn't stop the inauguration, whatever issues anyone may have with the outcome of the presidential election. It shouldn't stop the inauguration. It's going to cause a constitutional vacuum, we've been told. And when you look at, how it has been, the trajectory since 1999, how things have been, there hasn't been any election that hasn't been contested. Yeah, exactly. It's so, and what continues?
No, of course. The issue of contesting the outcome of elections is a right of any candidate to contest if you feel that the process didn't go the way you want. And that's why the courts or the tribunals were even set up ahead in the first place. So, but however, for those who will call for the suspension of the inauguration is what a lot of people say that those who would say that would only say that out of maybe inadequate knowledge of how these processes work. Because the point there is, INEC, that was constitutionally mandated to conduct elections, have conducted elections. And there was an outcome as far as INEC is concerned. And there's a date set for the inauguration of the outcome of that election. So, but however, the process that led to that election, some candidates are not comfortable with it, which is okay. They've taken the issues to court, which is okay. So allow the tribunal, allow the courts come out with the whatever decision based on the evidence you've submitted, and allow the system run its course. But saying that the president elect should not be sworn in because there are issues in the tribunal, I don't think that is what it's supposed to be. We have, like we have always mentioned, we have 8 states that have off-season election because the tribunals or the court or the Supreme Court, whatever, had upturned their election based on the arguments on how the process went. So the point there is that if we have confidence in the tribunal, we have confidence in the courts, then let us allow them do their thing. But however, the inauguration has to hold. Like you said, there can't be a vacuum because by May 29, it should be the commencement of a new government. By May 30th, Buhari cannot be the president of Nigeria anymore by law. So if he is there, as anything, but in fact, you become an illegitimate government. You know, so all of these are there. There can't be a vacuum, and then you can't bring somebody from the United Nations to run Nigeria because we.
And ministries are also, we see that in the papers too, ministries are also, getting ready to exit. Heads of ministries, ministers are also, exiting, and
yes.
all hands, everyone is, preparing for the change of government.
Yeah, everybody is ready for it, and we look forward to how that's going to pan out.